What's up, guys? It's Screw Loose again from TwinstiqLP with another side-by-side comparison, and today we've got a couple of heavy trucks. This is the Dan 96320 against the Azov 73210. Okay, guys, let's take a look at the Azov first. This one uses the second of 3 engine options. The third is more powerful, but it does use too much fuel for my liking. The same goes for the gearbox, just using the standard special gearbox for heavy vehicles. Speaking of heavy vehicles, these are both heavy, and I will mention the fuel capacity for both as well. This one contains 350 liters of fuel. It rides on stock suspension only. There is no upgrade to race suspension, and it rolls on 50-inch mud tires. For these tests, we're going to go ahead and use the stock heavy winch. This isn't really about the tools, that's about the vehicle. It's running on all-time all-wheel drive and full-time lock differential. This is a pretty rounded truck. It will be compatible with the seismic vibrator as well as a lot of other useful add-ons. The main advantage for the Azov is that it uses a 10x10 drive setup, and 6 of those wheels are used for steering, so it's really maneuverable. Even though it sits fairly low, it can usually plow its way out of trouble just by sheer force. Alright, this is the Dan 96320. It is using the third engine option because I found it as an upgrade. I didn't have to buy it. And it actually does okay on fuel economy. It is using the standard special gearbox as the Azov is. This also carries 350 liters of fuel. Stock suspension only, also no upgrades, although it does sit naturally higher than the Azov, and also rolls on 51-inch mud tires. As with the Azov, we're using a stock heavy winch again because the tools are not really the focus here, it's the vehicle itself. Like the Azov, this has full-time all-wheel drive and fully locked differential, and again it's pretty well rounded in its add-on capability, so not quite as many are supported as the Azov. The Dan is not compatible with the seismic vibrator. Though it does sit a little higher, the Dan is nevertheless front heavy, and even with a heavy load it can feel like the back wants to step out occasionally. But it is very powerful, and its fuel consumption isn't terrible. Its C rating seems a little harsh, actually. Alright, yeah, so both trucks are pretty versatile. They will both carry the Avto 23 heavy crane as their primarily crane platforms. Now, we're not going to use the crane, that's only there because it's heavy and it will test the center of gravity and stability over uneven terrain. Both trucks are capable of pulling not only high and low gooseneck trailers, but they can also pull normal tri-point trailers as well. So we're going to take a look at how they perform with a quick A to B pull task. Nothing terribly long, because I think most folks are just going to default to a medium truck for most pulls. And finally, oh no! I've managed to get my dairy Longhorn stuck in a lake and it ran out of fuel for some reason. Gosh, whatever shall I do? Well, I guess we're going to see if one of these big boys can manage to pull it out along with its fully loaded heavy trailer, using only the stock winch. Yeah. Alright, so normally we would follow this in real time, but this would have added something like 20 minutes to the video. This is both of these trucks trying to rescue the dairy Longhorn. And what happened was the Dan got immediately stuck. It took a little bit of pulling to get it out of the way, and it managed to do some good. It pulled it up out of the lake, but I couldn't really get beyond a certain point. The Azov did quite a bit better. It essentially drove away with it, but still couldn't get it all the way out of the lake. And eventually, what I ended up with, even though it's not very clear in the video, what I ended up doing was putting enough force on the trailer to disconnect it from the truck, and at that point I just called it good. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that these vehicles could eventually pull the dairy Longhorn out of there. They're both very powerful, very strong, and with the correct tools, being able to use that crane and the advanced winches and stuff, no doubt in my mind it would pull them out. But in terms of just raw power, being able to drive them out of there, neither one was quite able to do it. So yeah, I think the moral of this particular story is that the dairy Longhorns are both heavy-ass trucks. Alright, so moving on to the final test, I've removed the heavy cranes from the trucks and put on semi-trailers. The route for the trucks will start here at the end of the dam, where we'll travel downhill and in a full circle at the same place we started. The terrain should prove enough challenge for off-road ability and maneuverability over uneven terrain, along with testing the raw power to haul 5 slots of heavy materials. Alright, there we have it, guys. The Azov is certainly more nimble in the turns, but sits low enough to bottom out on uneven ground. However, the 10-wheel drive does help it just kind of power through obstacles. The fact that it's lower slung also potentially helps, and the fact that its center of gravity is lower, so it's harder to turn over, proven by the end turn there when it drove up the slope a little bit sideways. The Dan, on the other hand, has higher suspension, so it gets over the bumps easier, but it's relatively limited, at least in comparison to the Azov. It's relatively limited 6-wheel drive. Didn't really carry it through the mud as easily. I even had to drop it into low gear at one point. Which by itself is not unexpected in most cases. This game is all about driving through difficult conditions, and low gear happens. But the Azov didn't have to. It's also harder to turn the Dan sharply, and that makes it more difficult to manage windy roads. But, I mean, I happen to think both vehicles perform pretty admirably. I don't know, man. What do you guys think? Which one would you rather use? Alright, guys. I've been Screwless from TwinstiqLP. Thanks for watching. Have a great one.